after I'd moved to Maine, I'd been here about 3 years, a ship from the Pleiades let me know they were coming to take me on board. And then I watched a meteor zoom in and come to almost a stop above my moving car. I was a passenger, and my girlfriend from hell was driving. And, yeah. And so I said to her, there's a saucer coming to take me on board. And she looked at me like, oh, wow, you really are brain damaged now. And then right there in front of us, we were on a ridge. This meteor streaked in from, we first saw it about 100 miles west, moving so fast it was like a streak. And then it slowed down. And there was this 100-foot saucer about 100 feet above the car while we're doing 60 miles an hour. So anyway, fast forward, and I thought, how am I going to get rid of this girlfriend? And I said, I know. If I break up with her, I'm going to probably, I can't even imagine what bad things could happen. So I kept saying a prayer every day, dear Lord, please have her meet another man and run away with him. And sure enough, that's what happened. About 6 months later, she came home and she said, because I had gotten her a horse, she goes, I met a man and he's coming over to take me out on a date. And at first, it was a little hard, but then I thought, oh, this is really what I've been praying for, so thank you, God. And then I was talking to a psychic who reads the Akashic Record. She has the Logos Center in Scottsdale, Arizona. She's quite elderly now. I don't know if she still does that, but she was doing a reading for me, and she said, you've never had a girlfriend on your wavelength, so why don't you ask the ETs to find you one? And I thought, because, I guess some people think I'm blunt, but I just say what I want. Why beat around the bush? So I said, because I'm 6 feet 2 inches tall, and I thought, I want a 6 foot tall girlfriend who's half Scandinavian, half Scottish, blonde or red hair, blue eyes, great sense of humor, psychic, artistic, creative, loves animals, especially cats, and believes less is more. And then I don't drink, and I didn't want her to drink either. And so I went out lecturing, at that time, 1990, and the beginning of October, I went out to lecture to 2 different UFO groups, and I met Janet, and she suggested that we climb Acadia Mountain in the national park, and we went up. It was a beautiful fall day, and we were together for 3 hours, and we fell in love. And then I went home, and I thought, that's the girl. I mean, how could it be better? She's 6 feet tall. She's half Swedish, half Scottish. She's got reddish blonde hair and blue eyes. She loves animals, especially cats. And she's artistic, creative. I mean, everything. The only thing I left out was that she has a bit of a temper, but I guess that comes with the red hair. But it's sort of like a hurricane, like at one moment it seems like the sky is green and purple and everyone's going to die. And then 2 minutes later it's passed over the horizon and the birds are tweeting and the sun comes out. So, but it's really funny because there's no way, because I don't know that either of us really had a circle, but there's no way that her circle and my circle were ever going to intersect except this one Friday late afternoon. And we're so opposite. It's just ridiculous. I'm completely logical and technical, and she is the opposite. If I tell her to push the left button, she'll push the right one. And but she's psychic. She can hold objects and read where they came from, who held them, where they were, what they thought. And so it's been a lot of fun. And really, if you ever saw that Seinfeld show where he dates somebody like himself and it drives him nuts, if I dated somebody like myself, I think I'd just kill myself. So Janet and I get along really well, and we get along so well that we can just spend all day talking to each other and not need other people. And so being up on here a mountaintop with no neighbors, and that allows us to recharge and then come back out and tell all this interesting stuff.
You tell us about the restaurant. Tell us that part.
Well, first I just wanted to mention when I first met Gordon, I went outside to talk to him for a minute alone, and I felt this energy that I've never felt before from another human being, and he almost knocked me off the porch, and I go, whoa, where'd that come from? Because it was like he gave off this charge of energy, and I had never really felt that before. And then later, within 2 days, I started dreaming about UFOs, and I hadn't done that since I was a child, and I had almost forgotten. So it was like it was meant to be. The ETs were getting us together.
Mm-hmm. I've heard of that before many times, and Whitley Strieber talked about the ETs' arranged marriages.
Definitely. That was definitely ours. Otherwise, I know that they did, because otherwise we would have never met.
Right, and we're both really, really old souls. There's no question about that. And she's been in contact with the Zetas. Now, Nancy Leader has been in telepathic contact with the Zetas, the unselfish human Zetas, since 1995. And I was talking to her, and she checked with the Zetas. And you might not know this, but when the selfish Zetas made a deal with the U.S. government, the unselfish Zetas were made to turn over a list of all their contactees to the selfish Zetas. And there was this, I think I have the year right, 1980, there was a list of about 16,000 Zeta contactees. And Janet was on that list. So, because Nancy Leader checked. But I have no doubt, I mean, if we have ships and things happening in the yard and wherever we go, it's mostly Zeta ships. And she's had some just extraordinary experiences. And like in 1991, she had a dream. She was on a ship, and she goes, well, instead of just dreaming about you, could I see you? And she woke up, and there it was, in our yard.
Just over the treetops, making no noise. It was a perfect saucer shape. And I kept thanking it, and I woke Gordon up, and we both went out and watched it for 20 minutes.
Wow, that's wonderful.
And I notice over the years, they come to me in dreams and tell me where I'll see them, and I'll see them the next day, and they'll tell me, I'll see them on a walk, or they'll tell me, I'll dream that my life's in trouble and I'm upset, and how will I survive? And they'll let me know that they're always there for me, and they'll let me know they're going to allow me to see them the next day
Now, we had a chain of experiences over Christmas and New Year's that were quite interesting,
yeah.
And this is just one of the things, but on the night of the 26th, Janet was thinking, because I've had some health not emergencies, but difficulties in the last year. And she was thinking, well, what if something happens to Gordon? What will happen to me?
In my dream state, yeah.
Yeah, and in her dream, the Zeta said, Janet, we're always with you, and the very next time you go outside, we will show you.
There were ships all around me.
And, well, the next day was rain and drizzle. It couldn't have been more miserable. And we heat with wood.
It was icy.
Yeah, everything.
Even the stores in our area couldn't open just before Christmas because we had such a bad spell of weather, and it stayed that way for
months. It was like the worst winter ever.
Yeah,
never seen a winter like that. It was 45 below zero was the normal air temperature for 3 weeks.
So there was no way anybody could come up to the mountain. There was no way we could go down, and there was no way there was any flights in the sky.
So we had some cut and split firewood at the top of the mountain, and all we had to do was go take the tractor and put it in the bucket and drive it down and dump it into this firewood wagon next to the house. So, but it was so miserable. There was a fog so thick you could cut it with a knife. There was drizzle. There were pouring rain through all of that. And we let the whole day go by, and we stayed inside. And then finally it got dark around 5 o'clock, and we go, oh, damn, we really have to go get that firewood, because why wait any longer? So Janet was the first to get on her rain gear, and I was still struggling with my boots, and she went around the corner of the house. Now, we're on top of a mountain, and if there were a huge mothership on top of this mountain, then people would be able to see it for 100 miles.
Right.
But because you couldn't see even 100 feet, whatever was up here was just private for Janet. And she turns the corner, and there is a spherical mothership glowing bright red like an LED stoplight, a spherical mothership hundreds of feet across, hovering just above the top of the mountain. And she kept going, Gordon, there's a UFO. And I'm like struggling with my boots, and I'm trying to get out the door. And by the time I got around the corner, it winked out.
Yeah, it was about 15 minutes. I watched it in silence. And and it was like a Christmas ornament, red, being red and huge. But then I remembered the dream or the vision or waking dream, whatever that was, where I deal with them most of the time.
And that was the next time you went out?
And that was the next time I went out, and I remembered, I go, oh, thank you, but what a ship that was. It was gorgeous.
Wow.
And so I felt that was a nice. But what's really funny is that my sister, the same night.
Oh, that's. Should we say that for a little bit later when we talk about E.T.'s contact?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, we'll say that one. But remember, that's the same
remind us
night.
of her sister Nancy.
Okay, I'll make a note. So I wanted to ask you, since we evoked the Zetas, can you clarify for us a little bit what you know about the Zetas or Greys? What's the difference between the Zetas, like the J-Rods and the Roswell Greys and the Kingman ETs? Are these all Greys? Can you kind of explain that to our listeners?
I don't know if we really know that, because we don't have a list of who the military says is out there, and these people don't come and hand us a paper. This is us. We're the J-Rods or Gs. We're the Zeta Greys. And most of my contacts have been with Pleiadians. So she
I deal with the Greys. They were, at different heights. I don't know if they're all the.
But she has had Zeta hybrid babies. So they've been picking the most emotional and intelligent people from all over the earth and breeding a hybrid race, and that's the new race that's going to be born after poleshift. And they're being born now, but they're in secret cities where you don't know where they are.
I knew at age 4. I mean, something. I always loved cats, and I had a black cat at age 4. And my black cat shapeshifted into an ET and back, and I go, oh, as a kid I was telling everybody, and all made sense to me. But I was dealing with, and I loved dreaming about spaceships, and I told everybody till I was in grammar school that I was going to get my own spaceship, go to the moon with my animals.
Janet, what planet are you on?
And the teachers used to ask me what planet I was on, even though they didn't know a lot of what I said about, UFOs.
They call you Janet Planet. They called me Janet.
Oh,
Planet.
yeah. And the teachers were like, so I started, I was born in 53.
Mm-hmm.
So my mother believed in UFOs, and she lived near Limestone. She grew up in near Limestone, Maine, where they had the UFO sightings at the air base.
The military base,
base.
Over the nuclear weapons.
She was sort of used to the idea of UFOs, and she got bit by a black dog just before tried to bite her just before she had my brother, and I often wondered if it was an ET kind of thing.
You know what? Janet gets a lot of her dreams where she's on a saucer begin with her thinking that she's in Disneyland, and I think that's a screen memory, because Disneyland is harmless.
Park, same thing. It's the amusement park screen memory, and when you learn to track these down, that was contact that you were having. Yeah, go ahead.
Exactly, and so but it isn't Disneyland. But her first impression is that she's back in Disneyland.
Yeah.
But instead, there's corridors and rooms
and there's funny people
and
made up. And they're doing bizarre things.
But it's all very friendly.
It's like an adult Disneyland.
Now, she was fixed. The billionaire. She lived with a billionaire for 10 years before I met her. And when I was first told that I should ask for a woman on my wavelength, she was still living with this guy. But she came home one day and he had a 22-year-old nurse on each knee, and he said, "Get your stuff, you're done," and kicked her out. And so that's how she became single. And
so how did he fix you? I mean, what happened?
Well, he had me so convinced. I mean,
well, he went around and said that everybody who wasn't from the right heritage.
Yeah, well, he was blue blood, and their family
should not breed. I mean, and they historically they did that on Bar Harbor, Maine. They would stop in at people's houses and tell them, people like you shouldn't breed.
See, I grew up with the very, very rich and the poor.
Yeah.
And the rich were going around doing the breeding program where only the certain people should breed. So they had
it's amazing
whole thing of who's good enough to breed.
Oh, yeah, wow.
He used to drive friends over to her house.
He started getting me ready at age 4, and I didn't realize it until
and he would because she had like 5. There were 9 children in her family,
in my family.
And 6 girls and 3 boys, and I feel confident in saying that Janet's the pick of the litter. But anyway. But anyway, he used to drive his Mercedes over by their house and wait for her to come out the door and tell his friends, "Someday I'm going to have that girl."
And he was a lot older than I am, but he would go around paying for very young children.
She learned more perverse